There are some games that aren't just good. They're so good that you'd trade your short-term memory just to experience them fresh again. You know the ones, the games that pull you into their world so completely that you forget to eat, sleep, or answer texts from your friends who just don't get it. The ones with twists that leave you staring at the screen, speechless. The ones with moments that hit you right in the soul. The ones where, as soon as the credits roll, you feel an overwhelming sadness because you'll never get to experience it for the first time again. Today, we're looking at 17 games that are so ridiculously good, you'll wish you could play them again for the first time. And don't worry, I'm not just going to list them out. We're diving into what makes these games so unforgettable. Let's start with 8 absolute masterpieces that will ruin other games for you. At first, Red Dead Redemption 2 seems like a simple cowboy adventure. Ride your horse, rob a train, get into bar fights, the usual. But then, it gets personal. Arthur Morgan isn't just a protagonist. He's a fully fleshed out human being. And by the time you realize how much you care about him, the game's already putting you through the emotional ringer. And the world? It's absurdly alive. Townspeople remember you. Random strangers have full-blown conversations, and the smallest side quests feel like their own stories. Oh, and the soundtrack? When That's the Way It Is starts playing, yeah, good luck keeping it together. If I could relive Red Dead Redemption 2 from scratch, I'd do it in a heartbeat. Portal 2 isn't just a game. It's an experience, a perfect mix of mind-bending puzzles, genius storytelling, and hilarious dialogue. It lures you in with the fun little test chambers, making you feel smart as hell every time you figure something out. But just when you think you got the hang of it, the game flips the script and throws you into one of the most unexpectedly gripping sci-fi stories in gaming. And let's talk about GLaDOS, the most sarcastic, passive-aggressive AI in gaming history. Oh, good. My slow clap processor made it into this thing. If you know, you know. The first time you play Portal 2, it's magic. The humor, the puzzles, the incredible voice acting. It all lands perfectly. Wish I could erase my memory and do it all over again. Every open-world RPG after The Witcher 3 just feels empty in comparison. It's not just the size of the world, it's how alive it is. Every side quest feels like it matters. Every choice carries weight. And Geralt? The ultimate gruff but lovable protagonist. And let's be honest, half of us got sidetracked by Gwent. You're supposed to be hunting down Ciri, but instead you're traveling from town to town challenging random peasants to a card game, like a medieval poker addict. From emotional quests, the Bloody Baron, anyone? To breathtaking locations, this game sets the gold standard for RPG storytelling. The first time you play it, you don't just finish a game. You live through a legendary adventure. You wake up half naked, hungover, and clueless about who you even are. Welcome to Disco Elysium, where you play as a detective so broken that even your own brain insults you. This isn't a game about shooting things or swinging swords. It's a game about talking, making terrible choices, and arguing with your own thoughts. Your skills have personalities. Your limbic system gives you bad advice. Your inner monologue is basically a group chat where everyone disagrees. And somehow, it's one of the most gripping detective stories ever written. It's dark, it's weird, and it's hilarious in the most unexpected ways. No two playthroughs are the same, but I'd do anything to relive my first one.
Informants, I suggest integrating it into your style.
At first, Subnautica feels peaceful. You're swimming in crystal clear water, collecting materials, building cool little bases. Life's good. Then you swim too deep. The water turns pitch black. You hear something massive moving behind you. And suddenly, you realize you are very, very small in this ocean. The first time you encounter a Leviathan, it's a full-body panic moment. This game is a masterpiece in tension. It tricks you into feeling safe, then reminds you that the ocean is absolutely horrifying. That first dive into the unknown is an experience I'd love to have again. Fairy tales, but make them dark, gritty, and set in New York City. Telltale's The Wolf Among Us takes you into a world where Snow White, Beauty and the Beast, and the Big Bad Wolf live in exile, hidden from humans. You play as Bigby Wolf, a detective trying to solve a murder, while also dealing with the fact that everyone kinda hates you for your past life as a monster. From the very first scene, this game hooks you. The choices feel real, the characters are brilliantly written, and the 80s neon noir aesthetic is perfection. If I could wipe my memory and experience it fresh, no hesitation.
Enough of a day with all this. They're sniffing around at my private belongings. I'm sorry I called, really I am.
Before Half-Life, shooters were all mindless action. Then Valve came in and said, what if we make it smart? Suddenly, FPS games weren't just about shooting things. They had storytelling, physics-based puzzles, and AI that didn't just stand there waiting to be shot. The first time you go through Black Mesa, the tension is perfect. The game never stops for cutscenes. You live through every terrifying moment as it happens. And that crowbar? Iconic. It's a masterpiece that redefined gaming. No wonder people still wish they could experience it fresh. You don't just play The Last of Us. You go through something. The opening scene alone, devastating. The first time you experience it, you sit there in shock, trying to process what just happened. Then, as the game unfolds, you get attached to Joel and Ellie. Their bond feels real. Their struggles feel heavy. And by the time the final scene plays out, you're left emotionally wrecked. This isn't just a great game. It's one of the greatest stories ever told in gaming. And I'd give anything to experience it fresh all over again.
You seem to know your way around a gun. You reckon you can handle that?
Imagine waking up after a 200-year nap to find the world completely destroyed. But hey, at least you have a cool blue jumpsuit. The first time you step out of Vault 111 in Fallout 4 and see the world stretching out in front of you, that's a moment. Boston is a wasteland, but it's your wasteland. You can build settlements, customize weapons, and get sidetracked for 10 hours before even thinking about the main story. And let's not forget Dogmeat, the only companion who doesn't judge you for stealing everything in sight. From power armor fights to that insane Institute twist, Fallout 4 is one of those games where the first playthrough is magic. After that, no matter how much you mod it, you never quite get that same feeling again. There are two types of Life is Strange players. 1, the ones who made terrible decisions and regretted them instantly. 2, liars. Playing as Max Caulfield, you suddenly find out you can rewind time, which seems like a fun idea until you realize that every decision you make is a nightmare of consequences. At first, it's all quirky indie vibes, Polaroids, guitar music, and awkward teenage dialogue. But then the game sucker punches you with one of the most emotional stories in gaming. The friendships, the heartbreak, the brutal final choice. It's all so well done that by the time it's over, you just sit there in silence, questioning life. If I could wipe my memory and play it all over again, instantly. You ever play a game that feels like you've been dropped into a full-blown fever dream? That's Alan Wake 2. It takes everything great about the original, mystery, supernatural horror, mind-bending storytelling, and cranks it up to 11. One moment, you're investigating a creepy crime scene. The next, you're trapped in an alternate reality, questioning whether anything you've experienced was even real. And don't even get me started on that one musical sequence. You know the one. The first time you experience that moment, you're just sitting there thinking, what the hell is happening and why is it so good? This is a game that messes with your head in the best way possible.
Left a message.
It's for us.
Telltale's The Walking Dead isn't just a game. It's an emotional experience. From the second you meet Lee and Clementine, you know you're in for something special. Their bond grows so naturally that by the end of the game, you're fully invested in protecting this kid at all costs. And then it happens. If you know, you know. The first playthrough destroys you. You're not just making choices, you're making brutal choices. Every replay is great, but nothing matches the first time when you don't know what's coming.
I'm just sad. I know it doesn't make any sense, but it's how I used to talk.
You ever play a game that completely changes the way you think about life and the universe? That's Outer Wilds. You start out as an astronaut exploring a tiny solar system, just vibing, until you realize everything is stuck in a time loop. You only have 22 minutes before the sun goes supernova and kills you. Then it resets again and again. Each time, you learn something new, unraveling the mystery behind why the universe is ending. It's brilliant. The sense of discovery, unmatched. The music, hauntingly beautiful. If I could go back and experience that first revelation again for the first time, I absolutely would. If you ever wanted to feel like a psychic superhero, Control is your game. You walk into a government building expecting an office job, and suddenly you're throwing enemies across the room with your mind. The Bureau of Control is the weirdest, most surreal game setting in recent memory. Objects float in midair, rooms shift around, and everything feels like it's straight out of an X-Files fever dream. And the story? Mind-blowing. By the time you finish, you don't just want to play it again, you want to erase it from your memory and experience all those what the fuck moments fresh. If The Witcher 3 is a polished, modern RPG, then Morrowind is its weird, unhinged grandparent who tells insane stories and refuses to hold your hand. This game does not care if you get lost. It does not give you waypoints. It just drops you into its world and lets you figure it out. And somehow, that makes it incredible. The world feels alien. The lore is deep, and the freedom unmatched. You can literally kill essential characters and break the main quest, because Morrowind doesn't care about your bad decisions. The first time you experience this world, it feels magical. No other RPG quite captures that same feeling.
Mountain, strange Daedra, and then there's, well, we'll talk more.
At first glance, Undertale looks like a simple indie RPG. Then you realize it's actually a game that watches what you do, judges you for your choices, and constantly surprises you. Do you fight enemies? Do you befriend them? Do you spare them? Every choice matters. The first time you play, you don't know how deep it goes, how much your actions change everything. And the soundtrack? Legendary. The first encounter with Sans, the first realization that your choices are being remembered, you don't forget that, and you wish you could experience it all again, unspoiled. We have to end it with this one. At first, Bioshock Infinite seems like a cool steampunk shooter with sky rails and great combat. Then the story happens. Time loops, alternate realities, mind-blending plot twists that make you question everything. And that final revelation, it's one of the best moments in gaming. The first time you experience it, unforgettable. The second time, still amazing, but nothing compares to that initial, what the actual hell just happened moment.
So, looks like they call you the false shepherd.
And you the lamb.
Let's not call each other that.
Suits